Welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at MarketSurge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge. Today's guest is someone who's been shaping how some of the biggest brands in the world think about email, retention, and customer experience, long before most marketers even knew what lifecycle meant. Joining us today is Jordan Dean Gordon, a 25-year veteran of e-commerce and digital marketing with deep expertise in email, CRM, and customer retention. Jordan's career spans startups to successful exits, an email product leadership role at Amazon, very impressive, after the acquisition of Abe Books, and a senior CX and digital strategy role at Realtor.com. Today, Jordan leads teams at PilotHouse.co and hosts the world's best email and retention podcast, Fellow Podcaster, where he helps direct-to-consumer and commerce brands turn email, SMS, and on-site experience into predictable revenue. So if you care about retention, profitability, and building an audience you actually own, this one's for you, and I'm really excited to hear Jordan's insight. Jordan, welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay, so I know this is kind of a boring way to start, but I'd love to hear how you got here. You worked in Amazon, you worked for other agencies, but you've done some really big things. How did you get interested in this field, and how does that shape the way you address your work at PilotHouse?
Yeah, so essentially my entire adult life I've been doing e-commerce. At the age of 21, I got a job answering the phones on the weekend in the first tech boom, right? And just kind of progressed from there. It was a book company that after a long process, including all kinds of regulatory stuff they had to go through with the Canadian government because books were a heritage industry in Canada, all this crazy stuff eventually got bought by Amazon, right? And so, at which point I became a product manager for email for Amazon. And then after that, more startups. After that, Realtor.com, a News Corp company. So just kind of all over the place. And eventually, I just became really, really good at working with any part of the business where we know who the customer is, right? Along the way, even before I started working in marketing, I was doing database analysis. And I was working at this one startup for a long time. And at a startup, you can wear lots of different hats. So working with database, suddenly CRM made sense to me, email made sense to me. And then once into email, I just started working bottom of funnel, so CRO. And after 25 years, it all kind of just blends into your skill set. And interest just seems to be post-click and how we treat somebody after you spent all that money on advertising to somebody. How do you treat them after they walk in your front door? Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Well, those are some interesting stops, and especially like early Amazon days when it was still like a book company. That sounds like a bygone era, but obviously pretty critical to how it got to be the behemoth it is today. So you were, right there at the first and a key part of that growth. Now,
there was a time when we were actually kind of just wondering, is Amazon going to go out of business? Right? Because Amazon actually almost went out of business while we were competing with them. But of course, the way it ended up, we got devoured.
Well, I can imagine that's probably on a lot of people's minds, like I know after the .com crash and, there's some issues there, but clearly pretty safely in strong position in business right now. Now, so I want to drill into one of your areas of expertise, email marketing, which is an interesting one. There's a lot of people that are really enthusiastic about it, others that have sworn off it. So tell us why you think email and maybe even SMS are still relevant and even more relevant than ever.
Yeah. Look, I'm a quant by nature, and so I've had to prove this even within my own organization. We're a multi-channel agency, so I've had to kind of prove to the team why we want to include email in there. And so some things I've done that just show that it is effective. We look at where customers come from, and we, if I use a simple model of recent prospect, recent buyer, stale prospect, stale buyer, and I average this stale after 90 days, right? It's actually 30 for prospects, 90 for customers, a little in the weeds. But we show that, look, recent business, like recent first-time buyers, is 75% of any business. So whatever comes in the top of the funnel, within a month, you got a buyer, perfect handoff from advertising to the site, and it closes. It's 75% of the business. The actual average is 74 point something. It's 75. which leaves a whole lot of place where that's a quarter of the business slipped through the cracks. And the one channel that is touching all of those parts of the business is email. Email, you can still reach somebody 3 years later and you don't have to pay again to put them in the advertising funnel, right? And, additionally, on that same analysis, so say stale buyers, might be 10, 15% of a business. Well, it's 50% of the revenue that we see from email, right? In fact, 2/3 of the revenue in email are from customers. So if you want to drive low cost revenue, you want to talk to your customers. So just when we go into the numbers and we look at where email is touching, who email is affecting, we can see clearly that it drives results that other channels can't drive, or if they do, they drive at very great cost.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the numbers bear it out. So that's fantastic. Now, I know you talk about using email to improve paid advertising ROI. How does that work? And how are most brands maybe missing that connection?
Yeah. Well, we have a concept called don't chase the same dollar, right? We don't want to chase the same dollar that the advertising team is chasing. So, of course, email is there. If someone shows up, remember this perfect little world, someone shows up and they make their first purchase within 30 days, right? Of course, there's abandoned cart emails that will go out and we will assist. I would only call that an assist. Of course, email is not driving that. But when we don't chase the same dollar, when we chase addresses that are not in that perfect world, if we drive revenue from those addresses, which email does, you drive up your top line revenue without driving up your ad expense, which decreases your marketing expense ratio, right? It decreases what you're paying headline for any dollar. And if your constraint is your marketing expense ratio, if you say, well, this is the ROAS we need, suddenly your ROAS improved and you can spend more. And if you think about, online marketing as a game of inches, right? If you think about that, if you just have a better marketing-based ROAS than the next guy, every single time you're just getting that extra inch. You're producing a bit more, so you're able to get a better deal from your manufacturer, and you just, over time, scale faster than the company that is not marketing properly to its customers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so very important is that, to maybe say it in the simplest way, you want to spread the peanut butter evenly across the toast, right? You don't want these lumps of the toast that have all this peanut butter, and then there's these dry bites that have nothing. And so email lets you plainly spread the peanut butter so you hit every single address, even if you use the right tactics, even going back years.
Yeah. Okay. Smooth peanut butter guy, not chunky. Okay. Good to. All right. Well, as far as best practices around using email and, other optimizations, it sounds like, you're a proponent of email enhancing your overall marketing spend. What are some of these best practices that a brand should be using when it comes to email campaigns, email marketing before they start scaling ad spend?
Yeah. Well, if you look at just bottom line, where revenue comes from, using email, the first thing that comes from is inboxing. You got to get in the inbox, obviously. You can't spam there. But after that, it's abandonment. So, and some people think of abandonment as there's an email that goes out that says, caught you looking, and you click on the email. And of course, that is abandonment. But there's a much wider world to that. Amazon inspired recommendations are actually kind of abandonment. And you can feed those to someone over a long period of time. They insert it into the catalog. They didn't purchase in that part of the catalog. We tried them. Hey, caught you looking. And then over a period of time, we try to insert them into another part of the catalog using, perhaps dynamic recommendations or something like that to show them the product they want and give them a second pass. So that should be a, say, 12-week operation, not just a 1-week operation. You should think about, how do we speak to someone specifically after they visited our site? If you go into your database and you say, how many people on this have clicked twice? It's going to be a very small portion of your addresses have ever even clicked twice. So that is so precious. You want to think for a long period of time how we're going to treat these people, what we're going to show them, where we're going to send them, And when you have that figured out and you know that you're squeezing all the juice you can from the rag for that visit, well, then you go and you start to spend, right?
Right. Okay. No, I think that's great. Now, maybe we can jump to the journey a user takes when they get to a site. Now, you're involved in this journey. It goes from maybe the email marketing as an early contact, but tell us about the psychological journey a user takes and that a marketer should take into account when this user lands on a site. I think you've mentioned 120-second psychological journey, if I recall.
Yeah, I did. We talked about that before. So, let's just imagine some site funnels for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
I'll use like an example. I recall, I audit lots of sites, and one site that we audited recently, I got to their homepage, and on their homepage, they had their logo right top left, and then below that, they were featuring another brand. It was another brand inside of their network. And it was like an industrial good. So, I would say maybe, just like if you imagine an industrial good manufacturer, maybe they haven't got yet the most sophisticated approach to their website. That kind of thing can happen. So nothing against them. They're killing it at building their industrial good. But what it failed at immediately was, where am I? So every single page is supposed to do, where am I? What do you want me to do? What's in it for me? And actually before that, there's supposed to be, is this site even professional, right? Like, does it load fast? Are there errors? Okay, fine. Where am I? Okay, fine. Oh, that's where I am. Okay, what's in it for me? Now that I know where I am, have you got anything for me? And then finally, what do you want me to do? And first of all, you can go back and look at your average site time, in kind of Google Analytics or something like that. And you'll often find it's something like 2 minutes or whatever. Well, look, if you can't do a purchase in 2 minutes and your average site time's 2 minutes, already you're kind of working on your back foot already. So to maybe just talk through these really quickly, there's research that's gone behind these timeframes. You have to show that you're a professional site within 2 seconds.
Okay.
You have to explain to people where they are. Where am I? 3 seconds after that, within 5 seconds in total. And the key things for where am I is like, the branding, the logo, but also top selling products. You have to show them, this is very e-com focused, you have to show them a product that they're interested in so they know, hey, I'm looking for jeans. Oh, there's some jeans. And if you think about when you're shopping, all the time, the second you're not into what you're seeing, you just click the back button. Like it's automatic. We want it so fast now. Then after that, what's in it for me? And that's going to be a lot of features and benefits, videos, testimonials, all those kinds of things to confirm, that, there's something here for me. This deal's going to work out for me. Well, that's got to happen. That has to happen total time 15 seconds. If you can't get someone to your site and explain to them and make them believe that there's something there for them within 15 seconds, the session's over pretty much, and they've lost track and they're going somewhere else. And then you've got up to 120 seconds, 2 minutes for a conversion. And that conversion could be a micro conversion. Easiest is, hey, let's do the pop-up again.
Sure.
You can safely do your first pop after 5 seconds because they know where they are within 5 seconds. Oh, I know where I am. If you do the pop too early, they got to click out of it. So you pop after 2 minutes, you can pop again, or hopefully get them through a funnel and actually add an item to their cart. If they add an item to their cart, they're going to get their cart abandoned email, those kinds of things. And so that is that time period, and there's, for sure we can talk more about that forever. We can talk about 5 funnels that we talk about or 10 choke points. Yeah, but that's what has to happen on a page within 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's even just that is very, very useful and illuminating. I think our audience could get a lot out of that. Now, we're going to get to the bottom of the funnel because I think that's an interesting topic that you have a lot to say about. But can you tell us, as we're navigating and thinking through a funnel, getting a non-customer prospect to become a customer, what are the key data points or metrics that a brand should really obsess over? And are there others that they should just discard, that maybe are overrated?
Sorry, can you repeat, Reed?
Sure, you bet. And we're doing this over the script, which often can choke a little bit. But So where I was going with this is, so when we're thinking really deeply about, obsessively about funnels, like you mentioned, and, we're monitoring how well they're working, what are some metrics that you think brands should really obsess over and others that maybe are overrated?
You got it. Yeah. Well, look, the core things we look at on a website, we always look at conversion rate. Conversion rate is kind of problemed because the second you send a lot of less qualified traffic, let's say you're really trying to grow your business, we're going to do a bunch of kind of reach advertising through Meta or something like that. It's going to crash your conversion rate, right?
Sure.
So, but conversion rate's still critical. If you take a conversion rate of 1%, which is, I'd say below average for an e-com company, we see a headline of about 2.05 median, double your revenue with no ad expense. So that conversion, think about it, right? So that conversion rate is critical. Just increasing your conversion rate from 1.5 to 2%, it grows your revenue massively without even driving more traffic, without even driving more awareness. So it's a critical metric. The fact it is kind of troubled because as you change your traffic sources, the conversion rate changes, which makes it hard to measure. But you can look at your headline and you can look at your direct channel, which is kind of minus all of the measurable channels, which is more stable over time. Look, those two metrics on a site, the first thing I look at, after that, probably add to cart rate, right? To get an idea how many people are progressing and hitting that micro conversion. Like a 50-year-old protocol. And it's part of everyone's life. I don't know the number, but there's this massive percentage of the population that read their email before they kiss their significant other. It's just this part of our lives. You don't even see it, right? But it is, so it's this critical, it's the largest communication network on earth, 0.5 billion users on email. You can reach anybody. And because of that, because it's also decentralized, is given to us by the gods of the internet, it's just a little bit funky. And so there's all kinds of metrics that throw false signals at this point, right? And we discussed the results that you get from email. Bottom line, companies that have good email programs succeed. You can't scale without email. So how do you deal with metrics? I'll talk through a couple. Open rates are wrong now. Like open rates are totally false. Open rates are elevated by about 2x. And you see open rates start getting below 20% and you're probably in the spam folder, right? So I look at, first thing I do when I look at an account is, where's the open rate at, right? Where's campaign rate? So I can see, is it healthy? Is it not healthy? I don't look a whole lot at platform revenue. Like we do a lot of work in Klaviyo. Everybody looks a lot at the Klaviyo revenue. The way that it works, platform revenue attributes to an open. So if someone didn't even click on the email and also of all the false Apple privacy opens that end up inside of your open rate. If someone didn't even open, but there was a false open and they buy, the revenue gets attributed to it. So I'd say revenue is like way down on the list of numbers I look at inside of an email account. But of course, it's what everybody else looks at immediately. And so better maybe to look at traffic, better to go to another system and look at a click-based attribution model. You can get out of Shopify, Triple Whale, something like that.
Okay, no, that's great. Well, that the funnel always leads us to the bottom of the funnel, the conversion to become a customer or client. Tell us a little bit about what evidence you've seen that investing in the bottom of the funnel is so indispensable.
Yeah, well, so we do this specifically to justify our channel within a company that does, say, 5, maybe 6 channels at PilotHouse in total, 5 different business activities. Our e-com strategists are always saying, well, what should we add? Because a client will come and they'll have so much money to invest in advertising. So when we look at, I'd say, large and scaling brands, 5, 10 million, Shopify, maybe more, and we look at what their MER is with advertising, right? And then look at how much money would you have made if you had just taken the money you spent on email and put it into advertising. It's a true opportunity cost.
Right.
And if you run this, it's kind of technical. Some of these things I'm saying are kind of technical, but if you run it on a 7-day last click, you make around 10 times more on your money with email than you do if you would have invested that in advertising. And the larger a company gets, the larger that gets. Where, the money that you invest in email can do 20 or 30 times more at full scale, if you're like a 9-figure brand, than if you'd spent that money in advertising. Because when you think about it, like if you've got an advertising budget of, say, $14 million, well, what's that extra 5 or 10,000 that month that you were going to spend, on email? It's like nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. But as I just told you, email reaches your whole audience, right? So again, borne out in the numbers. Anybody there who's thinking about, if anybody out there who's not doing email, it's like, you better start doing email, basically. So that's some real hard evidence. Also, if you implement funnels on your site, and this will be done with, kind of heat mapping software. We have this concept of primary and secondary choke point. The primary choke point is what someone must click to progress. Add to cart button is a primary choke point. Secondary choke point is what on that page is driving the most attention other than the primary choke point. Secondary choke point could be like image carousel, kind of the image under the primary image on a product detail page. It could be a features and benefits section. It could be something totally different, and it's actually just distracting somebody. Right? You implement funnels and work on choke points and optimize someone's trip towards adding something to cart and purchasing. Like, we consistently see people getting an extra 2% on their add to cart rate. So, maybe from 7% to 9%. You consistently see it. So because what you're trying to do with these funnels is decrease the number of clicks from someone going to your homepage or to a landing page to get something in their cart. And that's specifically usually stopping them from meandering. And they meander when they're confused and they don't have all the information right in front of them. So there's another example of just benefits that you see if you install heat mapping and run heat funnels and run email.
That's awesome. Well, Jordan, it's been fantastic to hear from you and learn from you. And I'm sure you have enough content for a many-hour-long podcast or a series of them. So I really appreciate all of this insight in such a short time. If people would like to learn more, work with you, remind us your podcast, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm the host of the world's best email retention podcast. It's like a different podcast from many pods in that my episodes are sometimes 50 minutes, an hour, and I get into a lot of the things that we're discussing, which is how email actually works, things you can do today to kind of improve your email. I do have guests on, but the guests are generally services that we use because I also run a team of 35 in an agency. So we'll bring guests on and I'll say, look, here's the tool that we use, and you can meet the founder, etc. That's the world's best email retention podcast. You can follow it on your favorite podcast app today. Of course, you can reach us at pilothouse.co. You can come and fill out the lead form and I'll speak to you directly. I'm not super active on X, formerly Twitter, but I am Jordan_Gordon on X, formerly Twitter. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jordan. It's been a pleasure. And please reach out to Jordan. It sounds like you have a wealth of insight on email and can really help you get a lot more ROI out of your overall marketing spend using email and other techniques. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. And hey, everybody out there, entrepreneurs, executives, spammers, and webmasters, it was nice to talk to you.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to MarketSurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's MarketSurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.